Hi, I'm Senator Jessica Garvin, and join me today on Undefeated, where you get to hear about my defining moment. We had a great podcast today, and I hope that you'll tune in.
Thank you for tuning into Defining Moments Podcast. This episode is brought to you by CMM Financial Services. At CMM, we know how hard it is to find someone who knows and cares enough to create the tax and wealth plan that you deserve. After walking alongside hundreds of clients for the past 20 years with accounting, bookkeeping, tax strategy, and financial planning, we have created a proven system to help you reach your financial goals. CMM has your complete financial team to reach your financial goals. Book a call at cmmfinancialservices.com. Welcome back to the Undefeated Show, Defining Moments Podcast. We're located here in the Better Business Bureau in Kyle Golding's beautiful podcast studio. Today's undefeated guest, she represents 5 different counties, 25 different zip codes, District 43 State. Senator Garvin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, we connected off of Twitter, and just like that, 3 weeks ago, you're sitting here in the studio. This is so awesome. How's your morning been?
It's been good. It's been kind of a crazy Monday, but it's been good. Got a lot going on at the Capitol this week, and so just dove in really early and ready to get the week over, get through it.
How early is early for you?
So I'm normally a runner, so I wake up about 5:30 in the morning and take a run. It's good for everyone if I have a little run in the morning. So I got to the Capitol around 6:30.
Wow.
And did a little bit of work before coming back downtown.
Yeah. How far do you run every morning?
It depends on how grumpy I am. So today it was just 2 miles, but some days it's 3. Some days I shoot for 4 or 5, but don't quite make it. I'm still kind of getting back in the groove of running after COVID knocked me down a couple of years ago. So
nice. Are you training for the marathon or anything?
Heck no. I'm not that dedicated. I do at some point want to run the relay, but no one trusts me to join their team yet. So I'll get there eventually.
That's funny. So someone trusted me back in 2013 or 14 to run a relay. And I was like, hey, I'll run. And they gave me, I think it was relay number 2. But what they did not tell me, it was this hill called Gorilla Hill.
Oh, yuck.
And I didn't realize it. And it took me a minute. And I get up there, and I'm not following directions because I'm listening to music. And all of a sudden, I take a left, and I'm going towards to finish the whole entire marathon instead of going to attack my teammate. So then I'm kind of lost. And I was like, hey, where am I? And the guy's like, oh, you're going towards the way back downtown. I was like, I don't need to be there. He's like, you need to go back the other way. I'm like, oh, okay. So anyways,
that would probably be what I would do.
So we wanted to give you this gift.
Oh, thank you. That's amazing. I love it. Accepting gifts is actually my love language.
Is it?
So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're in luck. That's fantastic. Well, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you for all you do for our state and the community and the constituents. We appreciate that.
It's an honor, really.
Yeah.
I roll up to the Capitol every day and kind of pinch myself that I still get to work there. No one's kicked me out yet. But it's definitely humbling. I mean, walking into that building, especially so early, or leaving really late at night when it's quiet and, all the art. And I don't know, it's just such a humbling experience walking in that building every day. So I feel very fortunate to have the opportunity for however long God gives me, and the people of the district, obviously. So I just kind of soak it up. It's a surreal experience.
Yeah. No.
That, not a lot of people get the opportunity to do and to serve. And so I just soak it up every day.
Yeah. Let's talk about that pin you're wearing.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear more about that pin.
Yes.
What does it mean to you?
Man, so when I got my member pin, everyone gets a member pin when they're sworn in. And the day that I was sworn in, I had a very special visitor to my office, Senator at the time, now Congresswoman Stephanie Bice.
Yeah.
She left me a letter with the member pin and let me know that it was a gift from Kim David. So Senator David, now Commissioner David, had given it to her. And she left me this note that just said, this is basically, we're wanting to start a tradition of having just a legacy of really great powerhouse women that have served at the Capitol. And so someday when you're ready to give it up, then there'll be a woman that comes in behind you that you feel is needs the encouragement. And so I wear it more often than my member pin that I was sworn in with, just because it does have such a symbolic meaning to me. I mean, there's been so far 2 incredible women that have worn it prior to me, and kind of reminds me every day when I put it on that, I have incredible women that have come before me, and I hope to leave Oklahoma a better place for women coming after me.
That's awesome. You use the word encouragement as one of my favorite words. How do you encourage people in general?
I think that as a woman in that building, my colleagues don't treat me any differently for the most part, a majority of them anyway. And I think that alone, being treated as an equal, is encouragement enough for me. Most, if not a majority, of all of my male colleagues in that building don't treat me like a female legislator. I'm just a legislator, and I got there the same way that they did. And so for me, encouraging others is just really leaning into that and making them feel equally as important, equally as heard. And so I think for me, it's just that, is just kind of passing it forward for the way that people treat me, just passing that forward, and trying to help people, and just being there and giving advice and listening and taking advice and just all of the above.
Yeah. No, that's great, because I can feel your energy. I feel like you have really good, enthusiastic energy, so I can definitely appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
100%.
I probably get that from my dad.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's definitely a go-getter. I mean, he and my mom both, but my dad came from an immigrant family. His parents, were both from Mexico and came to the United States. And so I think that that's probably another thing that drives me, is my grandparents worked so hard to be here, and my dad came from nothing. And both of my parents, really, they were kind of dirt poor. And so I just try to work a little bit harder every day and make my grandparents proud. And they're all 4 deceased now, but sometimes I wonder if my grandma's up there in heaven looking down and thinking, like, my granddaughter is the very first Hispanic female to ever be elected in state history. Wow. And I don't know, that's kind of just a big deal to me. So I try to just drive that home every day and show up every day and work hard every day. And I don't know, it kind of drives me.
Yeah, that just gave me chills, because you said 2 phrases: show up every day and work hard every day. I feel like it's almost a lost art.
Yeah.
It appears.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think, so I'm a millennial. I'm at the very very end of the curve on the millennial spectrum. But I think a lot of millennials, and then after, have a reputation of not being willing to work hard and just wanting everything handed to us. And so I feel like I have a lot to prove, because of my age, but also especially at the Capitol, just being a woman. I think I feel like I have more to prove. And it's probably not for anyone but myself, but I feel like because I'm a young female that I have to work harder and do more and prove myself. When I was running, I had a lot of people that referred to me as a girl. And one of my opponents would say, well, she's just a girl that's in over her head. And so I, kind of embraced that and just felt like I had to do more and be more and work harder and really just get up there and prove myself. So if it's a lot of pressure on me, but it just, it's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, I like that. I've seen you on social media. You're pretty interactive, actually. How do you deal with negativity in real life, and then when you're going through posts and dealing with social media?
Sure. So my husband, I married a saint. I think probably a lot of people can see that through social media. My husband is a way better human than I am or ever will be. He and I just find a lot of laughter in the things that people say. So there was one, I don't know if you saw, but there was one, I guess it was like last week, this guy was informing me of a woman's place and what I should be doing. Did you see that?
I did.
Just reminding me that I needed to get back in the kitchen. And so my husband and I laugh about that kind of stuff a lot, just because it would probably surprise people at how often that I get that. And so we just have to laugh about it. There was one thing, it was about a month ago, where someone on Facebook called my husband a human trafficker. And people just, they think that they can say whatever they want to say, and that, number one, it makes it true. And number two, that everything that you believe or everything you see on social media, you should believe. And so we just really have to find humor in it, because at the end of the day, my dad always taught me that other people's opinion of me it's none of my business. And so sometimes I internalize those things and I realize how quickly that pulls me down. And so I just have to find humor in it, or I think it would consume me. And I'm just not that kind of person. I mean, it's unfortunate that people feel like they have to make comments like that, but whatever makes them feel good. It gives us a good laugh. So it's, I don't know. It's just one of those things that comes with the territory, unfortunately.
Yeah. I see the hashtag Dome Mom.
Mom of the Dome.
Yeah, Mom of the Dome.
So Senator Carrie Hicks, her kids, I can't remember the backstory, but her kids called her Senator Mom because they weren't really sure what to call her. They heard everyone calling her Senator Hicks, and she was like, her kids were like, no, her name is Mom, so Senator Mom. And so they started calling her that, and that's her hashtag.
Okay.
And so everyone kept telling me, you are so funny on social media, and the things that you say are, just totally on point all the time. And a lot of times I just talk about my kids, because my kids are hysterical, and I don't really know where they get that, probably from my husband, but they're very witty. And so I just decided one day that I needed some sort of hashtag, and because I'm a woman in the building, I think my role as a mom is probably, I love the title of mom way more than I do love the title of senator. And I told you before we started, that I'm just not that fancy. Mom of the Dome just very quickly became my hashtag. I think a lot of the other ones I wanted just were not appropriate to use. So that's what I settled on, was Mom of the Dome. So that's kind of my hashtag. I utilize it on social media, different platforms, and it's just kind of become my thing. I actually had a friend that made me I have stickers all over my laptop. People make comments about when they see, when they're watching session and they see my laptop, it's got all sorts of things on it. But a friend of mine made me a sticker that says hashtag Mom of the Dome. So
I love it.
It's official now. If you have a sticker, then it's legit.
Man. We're going to have to get you one of our stickers that says hashtag undefeated.
I'm in. Sign me up. I'll find room for it.
I love that. What got you into politics?
Oh, wow. Well, I originally started getting involved in public policy when I worked as a nursing home administrator. I was very heavily involved in the assisted living association, so the Oklahoma Assisted Living Association, and then also Care Providers Oklahoma, which is kind of more the nursing home side, and then assisted living through Ocala, and was just thrown into being a member of the political realm based on Ocala's committee. They have a public policy committee that kind of advocated for senior adults in the assisted living space, and so I started that probably about 15 years ago when I very first really got involved in senior care. And so public policy in that space was always really important to me, and got familiar with the process through that. But then about 2 years before I started running or started campaigning, I started getting people asking me to run. And at first I was like, oh, that's cute. Like I felt like, patting someone on the head and just saying, that's ridiculous. Just because I never have seen myself as a politician. I don't get involved in the drama of even as a Republican, I mean, I'm extremely conservative and very proud of that. I think that's just a testament to how I was raised, but
Yeah.
I just don't play politics. I'm much more of a policy-driven person, and so when I started getting recruited to run, it just wasn't something that I was interested in because I've never seen myself in that space, and so I was just very heavily recruited to run, and I think it was just some decisions that our former senator had made, and so one day, and people think I'm crazy when I tell them the story, I'm totally fine with it, but I just really felt called to run. And I know that sounds super cheesy, but it was so much that one day my son came home and his spelling words were political, Republican, Democrat, microphone speeches. All of these words were just politically driven. And I remember looking up at the sky and I said, God, I see what you're doing, and I don't think this is funny. Because people had been saying, you need to do this. And I kept saying, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And so that following Sunday, I went to Bible class, and the lesson was 2 Samuel 7, where God goes to the prophet Nathan, and he says, you need to go tell King David, I've got this. He's going to be a great ruler. He's going to leave a great legacy. I'm going to be with his family. And so Nathan goes to King David and says, whatever it is on your heart, do it because God's with you. And I just felt like God was really talking at me at that point. And so I've just always been a firm believer that he has to do drastic things in our lives sometimes to make us see his path and his plan. And I just kept saying no. And so when that happened, I remember I scribbled on a piece of paper and said, I'm supposed to run. And I slid it across the table to my husband, and he just looked at me like I was an idiot. It was one of those, well, yeah, we've all been trying to tell you this for months. And so for me, it was just very much a faith journey. And even today, I mean, people ask me how I'm so laid back at this job. And I really just believe that it's because of the faith that I have found. I grew up going to church, and I've always been someone that I consider a good Christian. And, I would go to church and check the boxes. And it wasn't until that point in my life where I really started understanding where in the Bible it talks about the peace that surpasses understanding. And that's the other thing that really just drives me, because I have always felt like I didn't know if I was supposed to win, but I knew I was supposed to run. And so, people going back to your question about social media, I get all the time, people will say, well, we're going to have somebody run against you, or, I'm going to run against you and find somebody more conservative than you. And I just keep telling people that's fine, because God never told me I was supposed to run twice. He never told me that I was going to win. And I just have a lot of peace about it. So whatever happens, happens. And I'm okay with whatever that looks like. And so, I had that going into it. I just felt like I'm supposed to run. I don't know if I'm supposed to win, but I'm definitely being called to run. And so I just have peace with that. And it's lovely to be someone who's in a public service position that still has that peace, because when people say, you better vote this way or else, or you better do this or else, that or else doesn't bother me, because I just have peace. And so as long as I feel like I'm doing the right thing and being very prayerful about my approach, I think that's just the best thing I can do.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that process, knocking on doors, going to little cafes or just different places to do engagement speaking, how do you prep for that mentally and also physically?
Yeah, it's exhausting. I did a lot of walking.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of weight, and then for some reason I gained it back. It's weird. It's all those little diners in Southwest Oklahoma that have fried everything. But I think mentally, the thing, ironically, that was the most difficult on the doorstep was the older Republican women, so 70 plus. Not that I think that's old. Like, I've worked in senior care for my entire professional career, so like for me, 90 plus is getting up there. But 70 plus Republican women, every single time I got on the doorstep, the only question that bothered me was, so who's going to raise your kids? if you get elected, who's going to raise your kids?
Mm.
And that was crushing because number one, it was coming from a woman. You'd think that they would be your biggest advocate, but that was really hard to hear.
Wow.
And I think it's just that conservative mentality of, women that age and older, they feel like we should be at home raising our kids. And so for me, that's always a really hard question to hear. But my husband always tells me I could talk to a wall. And so knocking doors was fun for me. I love getting to talk to people. And yeah, it doesn't bother me. I wish I could do it all the time, actually. Yeah. That's the best part of running. It was just meeting people and making connections and hearing what people have to say that's important to them. So yeah, it's fun. I'd do that over being in session.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're at the diners or cafes, does it ever get heated with your fan base, I guess, if you will?
No, not really. I mean, the thing is, you're always going to have those people that don't like any decision that you're making. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, it's an all or nothing type mentality. And so there's always going to be those people that never say anything positive about you. But quite frankly, if you look at those people's social medias or if you talk to them about anything at all, those are the people that are negative just about life in general. They very frequently find things to be unhappy about. Yeah. And so I've just gotten to the point I realize I'm never going to make those people happy. Yeah. So I don't know. I probably have a different thought process behind a lot of people who can consider themselves extremely conservative. I think upfront investments are really important. So just as an example, I had a bill last year that was putting $1 million of the sales tax generated from menstrual products into a fund to help pay for those products for women who couldn't afford it. And I had so many conservative people that would say, well, you're just creating another social program. And I kept saying, okay, I get that, but if we invest in this up front, then we could save money in the long term. So I pulled numbers this session with the healthcare authority and found out last year for women who had complications from not having sanitary products, the state spent $9,848,443.
Wow.
Almost $10 million from people who had menstrual complications just because they didn't have access to appropriate products. Yeah. So I'm asking for $1 million, right? If we could invest $1 million up front, we could potentially save $10 million on the back end. Yeah. And so it's things like that. I think that I just have a different approach than some conservatives. And I think that we're starting to see now, I mean, we talk about children at school not having food. They're showing up for school. We have horrible outcomes in the state of Oklahoma. Well, a lot of these kids are showing up hungry. So let's invest in food so that they can learn, so that we can have better quality outcomes for education, so that we can have kids getting better jobs, so that we can grow our state. It's just all about that initial investment. And I think that the shift for Republicans has really started to occur where we are trying to put money up front in those investments. And so I think we're going to start seeing just a different type of conservative. Yeah. And it's a really cool process to sit back and watch and be a part of. And again, I'm just thankful for that opportunity to be a part of it. Yeah,
that's great because it's almost like understanding the net effect of what you're putting up front, because at the end of the day, this is the net effect of your capital at the beginning.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah, wow. When you go through your life, what are some of your defining moments that led you to where you are today?
Wow. So I think, like I mentioned that day when I walked into Bible class and the lesson was 2 Samuel 7, for me, that was truly the defining moment of this is where I'm supposed to be and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Because I had been in a position where I grew up in a conservative Christian household. And again, I always felt like I was checking those boxes. I was going to church every Sunday and Wednesday and, had accepted Christ and done all of the things that a good Christian should do. But I think until that point where I realized I've never actually walked in faith, and I've never actually been someone who listened to God's call and really was moved by the Spirit. I don't think I realized how full my life could be until that point. And so, I always told people, even if I lost the race, even if I did not get elected, that for me, that race did two things. Number one, it grew my faith. It made me understand that I had never really had the type of faith that moves mountains. And so it did that for me. And that was enough. Like, that really changed the trajectory of who I was as a person. And then the second thing was, I showed my kids that they could have a goal that big. And even if they didn't meet that goal, if they just chipped away at it, that was enough. Just working hard to get to a point where, you were jumping out in faith, you were making a big decision, and then going after it, that no matter how it turned out, just having faith that was the journey you were supposed to take, for me, that was enough. And so I really feel like that Sunday sitting in Bible class and hearing that lesson and having God really speak at me was it changed the trajectory of my life, and it grew my faith and gave me a stronger relationship with my husband and my kids, and kind of just reinforced everything I had ever learned growing up. And so I think that was probably the most defining moment of my life.
Wow.
And it just completely changed me.
Yeah. Wow. I'm thinking about that defining moment, and if you were to give a young girl advice, what advice would you give her?
I think the first thing would be, other people's opinion of you is none of your business. Just because I think as women, we spend a lot of time tearing one another down, and we always compare ourselves to other women. And so just telling young women, that stuff is none of your business. Don't let that stuff define you, because that's not who you are. That would be the first thing. The second thing is, don't let what you think or what you hear or what you feel hold you back. I mean, just like I said, I had all of those Republican women who, a lot of them I looked up to and knew since I was a kid. Because, you're knocking doors, and I was knocking doors in Duncan and Marlow. That's where I'm from. Yeah. And so that's where I grew up. And so having some of those people say, well, who's going to raise your kids if you get elected? Number one, that's why I said, my husband is a way better human than I am. He's a way better parent than me. And we don't have gender roles in our home. We co-parent equally, and we, do the laundry, and we both cook, and we, it's not, this is my place and this is his place. I mean, we're a partner. We're partners, and we have a very firm relationship built on that. And so every single time that I would knock on a door and someone would say, well, don't you have small kids? Who's going to raise them? For the longest time, I let that deflate me, especially when it was someone that I knew and had grown up, loving and had my respect and had earned my respect, and vice versa. So hearing them say, well, who's going to raise your kids, almost made me feel like a failure as a parent.
Wow, yeah.
And so I would tell young girls, don't let anyone's definition of what they think you should be doing stop you from doing what you want to be doing. I think that's really important.
That is important. Who are three of your most influential mentors?
In the Capitol, or just in life
Just
in
in
general?
life.
Oh, gosh. My dad, for sure. So my dad came from two Hispanic, my grandma and grandpa were Mexican. They came to the United States. They came legally. And my grandmother taught herself to speak English by reading a dictionary. They had nothing. I mean, my grandmother owned a Mexican food restaurant. My grandpa worked on the railroad, and my dad grew up getting hand-me-downs. He had 4 older sisters, and my grandma would make his clothes out of whatever they had left over. And so my dad ended up putting himself through medical school, and just worked his butt off to make a better life for himself and for his family. And so I've always just really looked up to him for working so hard.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's ingrained in me. And my mom, I mean, I know that that's very cliche, but my mom came from a very humble home. My grandmother kind of did a lot of different odd jobs. I know she at one point went to nursing school or tried to go to nursing school. She was like a certified nurse aide, and my grandpa was a mechanic and a teacher and a coach. And so they just both came from very humble beginnings. And my mom worked multiple jobs to help put my dad through medical school. And so I don't know. I think that they definitely have. And my mom is also the most generous human ever. I mean, she would literally give the shirt off her back to make someone else's life better. And so them for sure. Another person that's really important in my life, and I hope he doesn't hear this because I don't want him to get a big head about it, but floor leader McCourtney, Greg McCourtney, he just is always trying to do the next right thing. And Senator Treat as well. I mean, they always look at things with a different perspective, and they always try to do the next right thing. And so they have really, I think, shaped me as a legislator, and helped me understand that you can't always have what you want as much as I want that, because I'm very stubborn. But just being able to step back and look at a very holistic view of what decisions that we're making now and how those could affect people later. And so I really see both of them as mentors just because of how much time they've invested in me and helping me understand the process, but then also just always wanting to do the next right thing.
Yeah.
And then my kids. I know that seems weird because they're little. My kids are really funny. I think I do post a lot about them on social media because the things that they say are so funny. Like my 8-year-old daughter, when school started this year, she had to fill out this, or I guess it was last year, she had to fill out this thing about, what her favorite color was and what she wants to be when she grows up. And she would never answer the question of what she wanted to be when she grew up. And so the day came where she had to turn that paper in. And I was like, dude, you got to fill that out. And she was like, well, no offense, but I just want to be something way more powerful than you. And I was like, oh, dang, this girl. And so I don't know. I think that my kids really mentor me a lot because they call me out when I'm wrong, and they encourage me and they love me. But at the same time, I mean, they hold me accountable. And they make me want to be better and do better and be more and set good examples for them. And I think that that's what mentors do. I think, they're supposed to help mold and shape you. And so as cheesy as that is, I think probably my 3 kids are a driving force behind who I am becoming.
Wow. That's amazing. That's really good, actually. I've never had that answer. Talk about the outdoors. You're a hunter, fisher woman, if you will. I don't know if that's correct, or fisherman. I don't know.
We'll go with it.
2023, I guess you can say whatever you want to say. But
somebody's going to get offended. You might as well just say whatever you want.
So you're a fisherman,
Senator.
What do you like to fish for?
Whatever my husband and my kids want to. Okay. So we, I've never tried to fly fish. Never done that. We actually hunt a lot more than we fish, but my kids love to fish. Okay. And so my husband loves the Blue River. But yeah, just anything. Catfish, literally anything. We just like to be outside. Okay. So I'm not, we throw everything back. I actually do not eat anything that came from water. It's just it's a non-starter for me.
Wow.
So I'm going to put it back no matter what it is, so I don't really care what it is.
Okay. So you brought up catfish.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of fried catfish.
Okay.
We need to somehow work this in where we go noodling. So we've got to get Governor Stitt.
I'm in. Sign me up.
Lieutenant Governor Purnell, Hal Golding, Senator Garvin, Wong Lam, and we've got to find a way this summer to go noodling at that festival.
Okay, so there is, I want to say it's in Waurika maybe? There's like a noodling festival.
Right.
But yeah, I'm in. I want to say Pinnell has noodled before.
He has.
Okay.
And we've talked about it.
Yeah.
And then when I interviewed Governor Stitt,
Uh-huh.
he's like, let's do it.
Okay.
And so we always talk about being accountable and following through with certain things. So
yeah, we need to make this happen.
I mean, I think this one's easy. We don't need to talk to Senate or House.
No.
This is pretty simple.
Yeah, we may have to bring as my friends call him, the OG, old Garvin, the original Garvin.
Okay.
Because he would probably be all over that. And Pinnell and my husband, they're like,
okay,
they are friends. They could.
We've got to do this.
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay.
I'll tell Steven to figure it out.
Please do.
Yeah.
Kyle, you in? Oh, he's in. All right.
We're getting a head nod.
This is going to be awesome. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
For sure.
Now you got me excited. I want to go down that rabbit trail, but this is going to be so much fun. When you think about your life, because you're super young, what are you most proud of?
Man, my kids are good people. My daughter, she just turned 9 Saturday. I keep calling her 8, but she just turned 9 on Saturday. She wants to be a special ed teacher when she grows up. One of her very closest friends is special needs child at school. And so, and then my son, just the things that they come up with. He had a kid that was bullying him at school, and at first he was really angry about it, and he internalized a lot of that. And then he heard from a mutual friend of theirs that the kid had a dad that was an alcoholic and was kind of in an abusive situation. And so my 12-year-old on his own came up with, I need to be nice to him. I need to be way nicer to him because he has a really hard life. So it's stuff like that my kids say that I just think, all right. I mean, they're turning out okay.
Yeah.
So that's probably, in my personal life, that's probably my biggest accomplishment, is like having kids that are decent humans. The very first time that I went to a parent-teacher conference for my son that I remember, I mean, I'm sure I went to more, but the one I remember was when his second grade teacher said, your kid loves Jesus. Like, the way that he lives is amazing because you can tell that he loves Jesus. And so for someone to pick that out in my child, I think is a big deal. So that's probably my greatest accomplishment, is just raising kids who care about people and serve people, love to serve people, and are just fun, and they find so much joy in life, and I think that that's what life's all about.
You just validated that leadership does start at home, and our future depends on the home life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well done.
Well, thank you. I think, again, it's way more my husband than me, but I think that it's just really important. So one of the things that we've always done whenever, as our kids have gotten older, is tried to diversify who they're around. So and what they see as pretty or beautiful, or I think that that's a lot of leadership. You should not always surround yourselves with people who think exactly the same as you and who believe the same way that you do. And so we try to start that really young. Like I said, my daughter, some of her best friends are special needs children. If you look at my girls' Barbie collection, they are Black and brown and Asian, and they every single Barbie that my kids have does not look like them. And we want them to have that diversity in their lives. And so I think they're starting out teaching kids that your network should look differently than you. And then additionally, I have friends that are raging liberals, but it's nice to have people who completely disagree with me, because I think it builds character.
Sure.
And so I think that that's another reason why people are like, oh, you're not conservative enough, because you have people that are your friends that are not conservative at all. But I think it builds character. I think that people, you have to have, whether it's in your personal life or politically, or even, religiously. I think that we should always surround ourselves with people, A, who are smarter than us, and B, who disagree with us on some things or everything.
Yeah.
Just because it challenges me, and it Senator Treat always says iron sharpens iron. And so I just am a firm believer that if we can surround ourselves with people who completely disagree with us, it tells us different perspectives. But it also sometimes will validate what you believe to be right or fair or true or just. And so, I think that that's a huge part of leadership, and it's really important to me that my kids learn that very early on. And so hopefully we're doing it right.
Yeah.
I mean, I got 3 chances to screw them up, so hopefully one of them will turn out right.
Yeah. No, number one, you are doing it right. Your husband is doing it. You guys are doing phenomenal, and will continue to do phenomenal. And on the conservative side, that's what I love about myself being a conservative. My wife will agree, is we don't always have to agree on everything.
Mm-hmm.
We need to understand what's going on in the outside world too, and then logically process and think, does this make sense? Did you get your job because of your merit or whatever else?
Right.
So it's really interesting, and I love, I won't say more, but I love being a conservative, and I love America. What does America mean to you?
I think, so I was at Stevens County GOP, I guess this was last month, and AJ, the state GOP chair, he made a comment that has just really stuck with me. And so when you're talking about conservatism and, being surrounded by conservatives in my job now, or even growing up, what I've always found beautiful about being a conservative is that we can all think differently. We do not have to have, like some other parties, we don't have to have someone telling us what's right and what's wrong and what to think and what to believe. We can all think for ourselves. And so that's what's really frustrating to me nowadays about people saying, well, you're a rhino, because essentially what that's saying is you don't agree with me, and so you're not conservative enough, right? And so that's the beauty of what AJ was saying, was conservatives, we all are free thinking, and we all may think differently, but that's the beautiful thing about our party. And I really kind of pair that with America. I mean, for me, we're a melting pot. Right? Like, no one in America thinks the same. We don't believe the same, whether that's religiously or politically or just the way we raise our kids. And so I think that our conservative party, the Republican Party, truly embraces what America was founded on, which is diversity. And we don't all have to think the same to be good conservatives or to be good Americans. And so, it's frustrating to me when people use the term patriot to describe themselves politically, because they'll say, this person's a conservative, but this person's a patriot. I see patriotism as someone who's willing to make any sacrifice for their country, not someone who disagrees with me politically.
Sure.
And so, I think that we're just becoming a party of division, which is really unfortunate. But we've got to get back to that, because again, I just believe that my America is diverse, and my America is a beautiful thing because we don't all think and believe the same way.
Yeah.
And so I hope that we can get back to that as a country and as a party. Unfortunately, we've had leaders across the spectrum from local to national that have really divided this country, and that's not what our founding fathers meant to be, meant for us to be, meant for our direction hundreds of years ago. Like, that's just not what we're not getting it right. And so I wish we could get back to this America that embraces different and embraces that diversity and wants to sharpen one another by talking instead of just screaming.
Yeah.
And so for me, America is just a land of opportunity and a land of diversity, and we just need to embrace that and figure out how to put all those pieces together to make it work.
Yeah. That's really interesting, Senator, is I feel quite a few Americans want to be, quote unquote, united. However, there's a small percentage of them that are really vocal and loud about the victimhood mentality. And I'll be honest, when the United States played in the World Cup last year, the coach wore a shirt that just said states. And that's the first thing that caught my eye. I'm like, aren't we the United States? And you're just wearing a shirt that just says states. And you're talking about, well, this country, Qatar, doesn't allow for homosexuals and all the such. But yet you're playing in it. The biggest stand you can actually take is not playing it. Just like all the other countries. If you're against that, don't play in the World Cup.
Yeah.
That's the biggest stand you can take. And neither one did it. Why? Because of money.
Yep. You're absolutely right.
So.
And it's frustrating.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really frustrating. Yeah. I think that more people are going to have to take a stand and say, yeah. I mean, I just think that it's going to take more people being bold.
Mm-hmm.
And
sure.
Hopefully we have leaders coming up behind us that will continue to do that.
Well, sounds like your kids are.
They better be. They better be.
Last question for you. How do you want to be remembered?
Wow, gosh. Just someone who's always trying to find the next right thing to do. I think in the legislature, we all find our niche and we all find our one or two things that we do that will shape the trajectory of Oklahoma. I realized a couple years ago when I got elected that a lot of people think that women's issues are Democrat issues. And the reality is women's issues are everyone's issues because they're not, like, every woman I know is not a Democrat.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Some are Republican, some are Democrat, some are agnostic.
Yeah.
And some are independent, and some could care less about politics. I mean, we're all different. And so a couple years ago, I ran a bill that eliminated spousal rape in the state of Oklahoma. So that was still a thing. We were one of 7 states that still allowed for that. And when I ran that bill, I realized, holy cow, I'm a young female in this building. And through no fault of their own, a lot of the old dudes in the Capitol don't want to talk about things like spousal rape and menstrual issues and gender equity as far as pay is concerned. I mean, there's just a lot of things that dudes don't think about talking about, right?
Yeah.
And so I realized a lot of the issues that are considered women's issues are things that Democrats were trying to tackle, but they weren't getting anywhere. And so as I read through the bills over the last 10 years that Democrats have filed about some of these issues, I thought, these are really good ideas, but unfortunately they're not going anywhere. And so, so there was one last year or maybe it was 2 years ago, prison reform as far as compassionate care. It's an issue that, from one of the sergeants told me, that the Democrats had been trying to pass for 15 years. Well, they were making it a super liberal policy. So I took some of the bills that they had filed in the past and made it really conservative and took a conservative approach to it. We got it done in a year. And so some of those issues that affect everyone, again, whether you're Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. Like, it's going to affect everyone. I just wanted to be a voice of reason. And so for me, I've been tackling a lot of the women's issues because I realized I have a really unique platform to be able to do some things for women that no one's been able to do before.
Right.
And so that's probably the legacy that I think more than anything I want to leave is I don't want my girls to have to be talking about the fact that Oklahoma is has one of the largest pay gaps in the country for women.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, this is 2023.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the legacy that I want to leave, is to make it a better place for women in our state. Hopefully we can get there.
Yeah.
But again, I just am taking a different approach because I'm addressing it as a conservative, and I don't think it's been done before. So
I like it.
I don't know. I just want to be a mover and shaker and ruffle some feathers along the way and bring some good policy. And I hope that that's the legacy that I leave, is to let women know that we see you and we hear you and you can do and be and, not have to worry about what people are going to say about you being away from your family or away from your kids. Right. We need awesome women at the Capitol too.
Yeah. You need to start another hashtag along with your Mom of the Dome, be hashtag ruckus maker.
I definitely do that. I do have a little bit of a reputation for I kicked someone out of committee last week.
Yeah.
And so I've had some people that have worked at the Capitol for years say, Garvin, you cause more problems than anyone in that building,
Yeah.
but it's because I'm not afraid to be bold.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. We're going to see how it goes the next year. I've got one year left that the people have given me, and so we'll see how much trouble I can.
Good friend of mine, Bradley Ward's a big fan of yours. So.
Well, he's very kind.
Yeah. Well, Senator Garvin, do you approve this podcast?
I approve. It's been a good time.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
I'll
you.
come back anytime. You let me know when.
Okay, I do have a bonus question.
Okay, I'm ready.
What are a couple questions you wish people would ask you, but no one ever asked?
Oh,
Senator?
gosh. I think for me, I always tell people nothing is off limits. I'm going to be completely honest and open. So I think a lot of people never really hold back when they want to know something because they know I'm just going to tell them like it is. I've had a lot of people recently ask me about things like, I don't know if you saw on social media, but when Senator Jett referred to paid maternity leave as paid vacation. So I get a lot of people that say stuff like, what do you want to say when your male colleagues say things like that? And some of those things are just better left unsaid. Like I would definitely say it off the mic, but I think I think that that's probably the thing that cracks me up the most is when people are like, whenever somebody so and so said this, what did you want to say? But for me, I usually just say it out loud. So it goes back to that ruckus maker thing.
I like it. And it's the idea of reading the room too.
Yes, for sure. For
All
sure.
Right. Well, this is great. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. For more Defining Moments podcast content, visit our webpage, www.undefeated.show. Follow us at Def Moments Pod on Twitter and at Defining Moments Podcast on Instagram.